You know, even though I'm not really the type of person that makes like super happy music or super fun music, at least not usually anyway, I find that the Nano Q-Tron, it's like one of these guitar pedals that I have a lot of fun using. And just because I find that it's like conducive largely to just like messing around, like it's easy to be very creative with the Nano Q-Tron. So for instance, like there's some cool things that you can do with the Nano Q-Tron, right? Like one thing you should know about it right away is something I talked about in my other video, which is that like the drive and the sensitivity of the Nano Q-Tron, like it actually like responds to how much you pick. So for instance, when I have it on the band pass right now, which is like a mid-range frequency sweep, and with the drive halfway, like the harder you pick on it, the more that it's going to open up the filter, and sweep it, for lack of a better expression. Sorry, I can't get the camera right. It's so annoying. One day I'll have a better setup so you can actually, so I don't have to mess around so much. But yeah, so for instance, if you listen, so I'm barely playing there, right? But if I put a little bit harder, now there's some crackling there and I don't know what that's about. I think it has something to do with my amp, because sometimes I'll have that same problem with some of my other pedals. So I'm pretty sure it's not the Nano Q-Tron that's doing that. Although if someone knows the answer, maybe it is, let me know. Maybe excuse me, if you know the answer, be sure to say something in the comments. So I actually used that in a song that I made just yesterday, as a matter of fact. Another thing that's worth mentioning with this thing is that I find that like it makes percussive and rhythmic playing a lot more fun. So for instance, like so yeah, it makes that style of playing like a tremendous amount of fun. Now with your band pass, that's just adjusting which frequencies, or rather it's changing which frequencies the Nano Q-Tron is messing around with or sweeping. So with the low pass, that's the low frequencies, the band pass, that's the mid-range, then the high pass is the high frequencies. So for instance, this is the low pass. Now the band pass or the low pass is a lot of fun, but I like the band pass because obviously the guitar's frequencies, they lie more in the mid-range. Now with the high pass, that's more for like the higher notes. For me, it's not really my thing, but I'm sure that you know, some of you will be able to get a much better sound out of it in terms of the high pass. I'm just not too sure what to use it for. Like you could, use it for the higher notes, but someone else could probably get more, sauce out of it, so to speak. By the way, if you're looking for something to practice, get my fretboard memorization cheat sheet from travelingguitarist.com/fretboard cheat sheet. What it is it's all the triads, the major and minor triads in every single key. Through the octave mapping technique and through a couple other techniques, you can actually just learn to memorize not only the notes of the fretboard, but you can also learn how to improvise in a bunch of different keys by understanding the the foundation of harmony, which is the triads, right? The foundation of chords. You can also sign up to my forum at forum.travelingguitarist.com. There you can chat with people about guitar and music and whatever else you'd like. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that you don't have to use this just with your guitar. You can also use it for your bass, in which case I would probably use the low pass on it, although you could also use the other type of filters with it as well. Also, I find it works pretty well with different effects, you know what I mean? So in some of the songs that I've made in the past few days, I have employed, a reverb and a chorus and delay as well. You can also add in some drive, and there's all kinds of stuff that you can do with it in that regard, right? But one thing that's really cool about this thing, I find, is that you can do different kinds of effects with it, in the sense that it doesn't always have to be this funky kind of thing, It can be something subdued, like what I was doing at the start. And another thing that's very important to understand is that your drive, that's adjusting the sensitivity of the envelope filter. So in other words, how hard of a pick attack do you need to actually activate the envelope filter? So if you actually turn, and it's important to add that because of that fact, because of that function, it will respond to your pickup volume. So for instance, I've turned down my pickup volume, and it's almost impossible to get it to activate the filter. But if I turn it up, then you notice how it's actually using it, right? It's actually getting it to engage. So it's very important to keep that in mind. Now, they work in inverse proportion to each other. So if you crank the drive but you turn down your pickup volume, then it will work. So for instance, I'm going to turn the pickup down by quite a lot. Then I'm going to turn the drive up by a lot. Maybe a little bit more. See, there. But there, when I crank it, now it's a little much, right? So I'm gonna put the drive back down to here. Now the Q, that adjusts the, now what that does is that adjusts how pronounced the filter actually is. So if you have it on low, it's gonna be more of a subdued, mellow vibe. But if you crank it up, it's gonna be more quacky. And I think that's a good way of putting it. It's kind of quacky if you really crank the Q. So for instance, I'm gonna just turn off my other effects. We're gonna turn the Q way up. You notice how it's quacky? It's it literally quacks, right? But if I turn that down to a more reasonable level, I would say around there. So it's pretty cool to use, and it's a lot of fun. Now, it's actually one of those pedals I don't always have on my board, but every once in a while, if I need some inspiration, or I just need to kind of I just need a creativity boost, in other words, I will put the Nano Q-Tron on. And I also think this would be good for some Corey Wong type stuff. If you're the kind of person who likes his music, or you like that style, I imagine that, there would probably be some applications for this pedal in that regard.